Welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, we're Dan and Stephen, a married couple living and travelling in our little 1996 VW Campervan. We gave up our lives of old and now try to find a way to balance work and travel in our tiny home. We've explored some incredible places in our home country of the UK over the last 18 months, and recently we hopped on a ferry to Europe, travelling through France before landing in Spain. Join us this week as we explore the incredible city of Girona before heading up to a spectacular isolated castle overlooking Catalonia. So sit back, relax, and come along, dear. Morning, Steve.
Morning.
Where are we off to today then?
We're going to Girona.
Girona, is that how you say it?
I think so.
It seems like one of the easier ones to pronounce. I'm guessing it can't be much different to that.
Yeah, but we want to get headed off because you need to get to these places early.
Yeah.
But there is a big town and there's a big wall that goes around. I think it's actually a walled city. And there's some Arab baths and...
We're going to the Arab baths, are we?
Yeah, but you can't go in the bath.
Oh.
Just like we're in. But,
Disappointing.
but yeah, that's where we're off to. So let's go.
Let's go. And finally today, hopefully we're going to pick up a SIM card because all the shops shut at lunchtime Saturday and obviously don't open again till today. We're probably going to miss the morning opening, but we should at least be able to get a SIM card later on when it opens again at 4:30. So that should sort us out for some data for the rest of our trip, or at least part of the trip. And yeah, we're going to go and explore Girona. This is probably one of the biggest places we've been to, probably the biggest place since we've been away. And as Stephen was saying, there looks like there's this wall that kind of goes around the city you can look over, so that looks good. So we're going to explore, let's go and see. And there's a free air over there, so that's where we're off to. Where are we, Steve?
We're in Girona.
We're in Girona, so we're going to take a walk into town. We found a little area outside of town which is free, and it seems quite nice. It's really big, so much space, and there's water there, which is great. But we're going to go into Girona and explore. Now, Girona is meant to have quite a lot of medieval architecture, and there is a wall that kind of goes around the outside of the city. I think it's outside of what's known as like the medieval quarter or something like that. So we're going to go have a look at that, because apparently you can walk along the wall and get really great views of the city. What else? Oh yeah, Game of Thrones was filmed here, so hopefully we can find out the spots where that was filmed and maybe recognise it. Or not, I don't know, it's been a while.
Something in season 6.
Season 6, yeah. And what a glorious day, the sun's out, it's hot again.
19 degrees.
Oh, it's dropped to 19 degrees, so it's much cooler than it was yesterday. By 2 degrees. But no, it's fine.
Still lovely.
It's beautiful. And there's a nice breeze. It's kind of like the perfect temperature, to be honest. Anyway, let's go and explore Girona. But it's in Girona's Jewish quarter where the city's rich history and centuries-old buildings leave the greatest impression. The many narrow streets and alleyways, full of original medieval architecture, were inhabited by the Jewish community from the 12th to the late 15th century. This part of the city is like stepping back in time, and it remains one of the best preserved Jewish quarters in the entire world. Oh, and of course, that little show, Game of Thrones, was filmed here, using many of the authentic buildings as a backdrop, including the famous cathedral. So we're in the Jewish quarter, I believe, and these buildings, a lot of it dates back to, I think, at least the 1400s, and effectively when the Jewish people were kind of forced out of the city. In fact, a lot of Spain, I believe, at the time, but much of this architecture is still the original from what it was. So it remains untouched. So this little section of Girona, it's got all these cobbled streets, stone buildings. It's lovely, isn't it?
It's beautiful.
Beautiful buildings. After heading for a quick beer, we headed up the wall overlooking the city, which wasn't the best idea straight after a drink. You're right, Steve. Suddenly got really steep, isn't it?
I just had a beer as well. So that was a mistake.
But I think the view's going to be worth it. And now we're going to the wall that kind of goes around part of the city and overlooks it. And already we're quite high up, it's gone really steep, so hopefully it's going to be worth it, and it'll be flat when we're up there, Steve. Once we're at the top, I think it's just a flat walkway. So we finally found this wall. We were walking around for ages, so we couldn't find out to get up, but here it is, and it gives you amazing views of the city, and we're still going up. Which Steve absolutely loves, of course. We made it, Steve. We found it. Got to the top. And it's mostly flat. It wasn't completely true, but there's a whole viewpoint over the city. You can see the mountains in the background. You've got the cathedral there. Just beautiful. Oh my god, there's another bit that goes higher up. I think I want to just check it. Oh my god. So this is like the top of the city basically. And the wall it doesn't go all the way around the city, but it goes around enough of it on this hillside to give you a really good view. The cathedral's there, mountains. It is glorious. Steve's downstairs because, to be fair, there has been some really steep bits, and then this tower obviously goes up even further. So he's just sitting down in the shade, which I should probably do as well because I've caught the sun again. But oh my god, so worth it. That's Girona. And now we've got to be really boring and go and get a SIM card. Good afternoon. Okay, so it's been a couple of days since we did a video. We've been in Girona for 2 days, which was a really lovely spot, and we could stay there for like 72 hours or something. We got to explore the city, and then we got to have a day of not really doing too much at all, which was nice. But we've moved on today, and we're in, oh my god, I've forgotten it already, Steve. What's it called? I had this in my head where we are, like seconds before I started this video. Torrella de Montgri? Torrella, isn't it?
Torrella de Montgri.
Okay, so we're in a town called Torrella de Montgri. I'm sure there's a better pronunciation. And we're still in Catalonia. But we just passed through because we were kind of looking for somewhere to stop. And actually, this looks all right. You know, there's a car park. There's no one else here, but there's no restrictions either. So we're still umming and ahhing about whether to or not. But as we were passing, there's this castle up on the hill. And it's called Montgri Castle. And it just stands out. It looks like some kind of ancient, almost like Middle Eastern looking building just on top of the mountain. And it looks really high up, but apparently it's only a 40-minute walk to the top. So kind of thought I'd give it a go basically before moving on. So let's go and have a look. So the castle's up there. That looks really high and looks a lot longer than 40 minutes. But I'm going to trust the trail signs and everything it says online. Looks worth it though, right? So this is the start of the trail. I just had to backtrack because I didn't want to just wander off into the wilderness, but there was a sign, said 42 minutes, pointed this way, and the track is meant to be pretty well laid out. And that's the destination. So let's see if it's as bad as it looks. Or as good as it looks, depending on your view. You know what, it's been a while since I went on anything uphill, so this is taking my breath out a little bit. So this castle we're going to see, it's called Montgri Castle, and it's on a hill above the town of Torrella de Montgri. And the reason it came about, it was built about 700 years ago, between 1291 and 1301, and it was built basically due to an ongoing conflict between the Counts of Barcelona, who at that time were kind of like the most powerful rulers in Catalonia and had huge influence over the Mediterranean. I need to take a breath. And the Counts of Barcelona effectively, I think they kind of commissioned somebody, they paid somebody to just sort of look out over the top so they could keep an eye out on the Counts of Empúries. And as far as I know, you can freely walk around and have a look. It's just a bit of a trek to get there, but let's go and have a look. It's nice to see a bit of European history outside of our own, and I'm sure it follows the same pattern of build, destroy, conflict, war, bloody death, and then ruins as everywhere else. But it's fascinating nonetheless. So one other thing of note, we were kind of warned and we saw a lot about it before we arrived here, about a particularly dangerous caterpillar called the Processionary Caterpillar, and hadn't seen any so far, not that we were specifically looking, but the region we've just got to, the car park, there were loads and there was all sorts of processions on the floor. And the reason these caterpillars are dangerous, I'm gonna have to stop again, is because of the hairs on their body. So they're really fine hairs, they're covered in thousands of hairs, and they're really toxic basically. So these hairs have little hooks and they get carried on the wind. That's usually the danger. So the wind carries them, they can get stuck onto your skin, they can get into your lungs, they cause a great deal of irritation, allergic reactions, all sorts of horrible things. You know, you're probably going to be fine, but it's definitely something you need to be aware of. You don't really think caterpillars to be instantly dangerous, but quite frequently around the world they are. And when you tend to Google most dangerous animals in Spain, you will always see this caterpillar on a list somewhere, quite often at the top of the list. And it's understandable why. So it's a particular risk to pets and young children, and pets obviously because they will walk about in their paws, you know, they might get onto the hairs, and kids because maybe they'll pick them up or they're closer to the ground and they're just more vulnerable in general. So yeah, definitely something to be aware of. And you know, it's not that it's put us off staying where we are tonight, but it starts making you itch without realising. It's just so paranoid. So there's a lot of these beasts, and apparently they do try and kind of kill the nests when they find them, just because they're spreading so fast, and they tend to be spreading throughout Europe, which is a bit of a worry. On the flip side, when you do see a procession, it's kind of a little bit impressive to watch, because they're in a perfect line, you know, back to back, just walking along, and they're kind of beautiful to look at. But I wouldn't advise getting too close. I did film some back there, but I did zoom in. I didn't get like really close or anything. Okay, I don't know if you can see, but these are the nests basically of the processionary caterpillars. I think certainly looks like it, and they kind of look the same, and they're meant to be in the pine trees, and you'll find them in towns, not just rural areas. But yeah, people actually come out to destroy these, and just because they're so invasive and such a danger to people. So it's a little bit of a icky feeling, just that kind of makes you itch just walking around. I think just keep your wits about you, but certainly when hairs get caught in the wind, there's not really much you can do about it. And from looking around, there seems to be quite a lot of them. Also, Steve's sitting this one out, bless him. And I don't blame him, because he hasn't felt too great for the last couple of days. He's had a bit of a cough and just felt a bit under the weather. And he's not one for hills anyway, so a combination of the two. To be honest, it's kind of taking my breath away a little bit. Maybe just because I haven't done it. I went for a really long run yesterday, So technically I should be fine, but yeah, it's certainly a reminder that going uphill is not always the easiest thing, that's for sure. But you know, he said he didn't mind me going to have a look. He's going to sit down there, and it shouldn't take me too long. I mean, it looks like I'm getting pretty close already. If I don't pass out. Right, let's get to this castle, shall we? Ah, there's Daisy. You can see her in the car park. Okay, so for one horrifying moment, I thought the trail was going up this scramble of rocks, which I probably would do. It might not be as bad as it seems, but I'm kind of hoping that's not the way, and it just curls around. I don't know though. Oh, actually, does it go that way? I feel like the trail's just kind of veered off, but I think this is the right way. Okay, so this path seems to be taking me away from the castle now, but maybe it just kind of curls round and goes up, being a small mountain of sorts. I hope so anyway. Otherwise it's another one of my infamous Daniel gets lost kind of journeys, which happen a lot more frequently than I let on. But that's okay. Getting lost is fine. It can be fun. As long as you find your way back and you're not in danger, it's all good. Sort of. One thing really noticeable about all this, and so much of Spain really, so much of its hills and its landscape, is just how rocky and kind of raw and sparse it can be. And yet even amongst it there's still so much nature. So even here there's all sorts going on, but yeah, it's really kind of stark, not barren, but just really almost volcanic looking. And just kind of a reminder, I guess, of how dry it probably can get, especially in the summer months. Alright, I don't know where I am, but we're going up, so that's got to be correct. Okay, I'm a little bit horrified because I kind of read this trail wasn't that hard, and it hasn't been hard, but it has been pretty steep, so I'm pretty sure Stephen wouldn't have liked this at all. And we've still got to go up this bit. I'm not even sure there's a path up there, so I'm sure it's fine. It'll be fine.
Well, it was a bit of a rough scramble from that point on, but the effort was well worth the reward. On the way I encountered herds of wild goats roaming the hillside before eventually finding what I came for, Montgri Castle. While the castle was never finished and building stopped over 700 years ago, it is nonetheless an amazing structure with clear Middle Eastern influences which can be seen all across Spain. The castle can be spotted for miles around and has now become a symbol of the region.
just got to get all the way pretty much back down to there, which will be fun. So I made it back, obviously, got back in time, kind of a bit of a dash down the hill, but we've just been to the supermarkets, we picked up some bits and we found a little parker, and we found a little spot in a village not too far away, and it's lovely because it overlooks the mountain that, well, it's not a mountain, but it overlooks the hill that I walked up earlier to see the castle. So it's kind of a nice way to end things, really. So we've driven to this little spot, it's really isolated, it looks really peaceful, there's a church nearby. And in the distance, the sun's setting behind us. You've got this hill with the castle on top. So not bad, hopefully. You never truly know until you've actually spent a night somewhere, so I don't know. Yeah, this seems alright. Seems really peaceful. And that's the little castle I climbed earlier on the little hill. I'd normally feel strange about parking near churches, but somehow this seems a little bit different because you're not like, it doesn't feel like you're in the church as such. It doesn't feel like you're kind of violating the property or something. I don't know. Right, time for a beer, I think. I think I deserve a beer after climbing that thing, scrambling up to the top of that castle. It's little Mediterranean beer time. What do you think? Si, senor, he says.
And so we settled down for the night, ready for the next adventure. That's where we'll end the video this week. Join us next time as we head for the hills in search of a natural hot spring before landing in one of Spain's most famous tourist hotspots that we just had to see for ourselves. If you enjoyed the video, give it a like, subscribe to our channel if you want to see more, and ring that notification bell to be sure you don't miss a single episode. Thanks for watching and see you on the next one.